most senior citizens is that they are a bit reluctant.
Then maybe the best option for you is to be your own boss.
The opportunities for the younger ones who come in will be affected.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Hazwin Hassan. Now, here's a question to throw out there. Should Malaysians retire later? Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said, says yes. Speaking at an awards and retirement farewell ceremony on Tuesday, she suggested that the government consider raising the retirement age to 65. This, she adds, is her personal opinion.
Indeed, and Azalina actually believes that many people remain active well into their 60s, and letting them go would be a waste of experience as well as talent. Now, as it stands, Malaysia's retirement age is parked at 60, and it was previously raised from 58 and 55 from both the public as well as private sectors respectively before that, just over a decade ago. But if Azalina's suggestion is seriously considered, what could that mean to the labour market and, more importantly, to Malaysia's increasingly ageing population? Now, for this, we have here with us in the studio Malaysian Employees Federation MEF advisor Datuk Shamsuddin Bardan on the show. Thank you so much, Datuk, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you. Now, Datuk, again, when we talk about retirement age, right, let's go back to what Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said actually did say. Now, the number of Malaysians aged over 60 is very much increasing, and many of them still do appear youthful and energetic. So it would be a waste of time to let them go because they can still do the work. Do you agree with her in this?
Now, of course, yes, to a certain extent, yeah, quite a number of people are still working beyond 60 currently. If you look at some of the data, it talks about something like 1.2 million people are still working beyond 60. That means about 7 to 8% of the working population in Malaysia. But of course, currently when they work beyond 60, it is more on a mutual voluntary agreement between the company and the employer. It's not compulsory. But of course, as MEF, we would have issues in the event there is a blanket increase in retirement age. There are many issues, and I don't think our current employment environment or the environment we have for the employment of senior citizens is conducive even for both employers and employees. Yeah? So that, I think, is something that I think we need to really discuss and possibly come up with certain policy that I would say that, yes, we should try to encourage employment of people beyond 60. They don't have to stop at 60, but we need to actually provide the necessary environment so that both employers and employees don't feel the brunt of having to actually carry the older employees in their employment.
So this is certainly a policy that shouldn't be rushed.
Yep.
Right? And in doing so, we have to definitely put a lot of thought into it and studies well before rolling it out. So what kind of data or modelling would be necessary for policymakers and the government to consider before raising the retirement age?
So the question is basically here, you need to look into the kind of current challenges that employers are facing when they actually employ people beyond 60. Yeah? Of course, one of the things that I think is important is the cost of employing these people. Cost in terms of course, wages can be very challenging. And normally people who retire actually would have been reached their maximum salary level.
Pay grade
So
as
the
well,
question
right?
is that whether, there is going to be a situation like, actually when you reach 60, you should not go beyond your position now. You should move laterally or even slightly lower, and then of course take a bit of a pay cut so that it is more manageable, at least from the employer's cost of managing these people. And of course, the other aspect that you need to really look is the medical costs. the medical costs, hospitalization costs can be real challenging. I say what, when employees reach 60, unfortunately the insurance companies are not interested to actually cover these people for hospitalization or medical insurance. Now the reason being, we can understand the reason. They say that it is a sure hit. If you take insurance on these people, they will surely claim. And the amount is not going to be small. So that's why they say that by taking the premium, it's not worth it for them to cover these people. So they don't cover. Or even if they cover, the cost of the loading on the premium can be very, very excessive. And this is where perhaps MEF had called upon Bank Negara as the regulator for the insurance companies to really relook at this matter. And also, perhaps the government also need to relook at this matter so that at least, the brunt of having to actually bear the medical costs of those people beyond 60 doesn't fall squarely on the employers. It has to be taken as more like a shared responsibility.
Right.
And of course, question is also, say for example, like when you currently you hit 60, then there is no more like insurance coverage for invalidity under so you stop at 60. So the question is that why it should stop at 60? Yeah, should go beyond. And of course, as MEF, we suggested that look, that shouldn't stop at all. It can continue, but of course on a contributory basis.
Right.
Even the employee on their personal account, even if they don't work, they can continue to actually be insured for this kind of eventuality, so that at least there is coverage. Because I would say that normally for insurance coverage in Malaysia, we don't take insurance, put it this way.
Yeah, but in that context, you're looking at it. You're looking at the approach to be similarly like how KWSP does allow for people to also contribute even well beyond their retirement age, right?
Yeah.
But how can we look into this sort of like move? Let's say if the government do decide to impose a blanket approach, how can we ensure that this retirement age and having to force our senior citizens to work longer does not pose any other challenges, not just physical, as you mentioned, maybe sickness and diseases or conditions, but the social isolation aspect, right? Because there are certain expectations in the work environment that requires whoever, regardless of age, to perform based on certain set of KPIs.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. So how can we ensure this is actually addressed properly?
This is basically a very, very critical point because, if we expect the employee to just continue from 60 onwards and doing the same thing what they used to do, they're doing, of course, that I would say is a very risky situation. Especially for the physically demanding work. Yeah. So in that sense, I would say that there need to be a change of rule rather than just continuing from where they are. Yeah, and of course this means that a lot of upskilling and even reskilling is necessary. But the problem with most senior citizens is that they are a bit reluctant to go for upskilling and reskilling, especially if it involves digitalization or use of new technology. They are worried about use of new technology. Even say, for example, myself, someone asked me to send the QR code. I say, I don't use my QR code. Yes, I can do some transfer, but I don't use QR code. So these are some of the kind of things that actually we need to actually train these people, not to be more like very much against new technology. They should embrace it. And of course, this is where perhaps when you talk about trying to have, I would say, a better relationship between the older and the younger generation, this is where the mutual mentorship can actually come in. Yeah.
Well,
so the younger generation teach the older generation about new technology. The older generation can say pass on the skill and the experience that they have to the younger generation. And this is, I would say, that at the end of the day, it is more like a mutual benefit kind of thing between the younger and the older generation, and possibly they build a better relationship rather than in trying to say, hey, you keep on hogging the job, I don't have the chance to be promoted, thing like that. Yeah, so that kind of thing need to be really managed. Yeah?
But since you said the word hogging, right? I was just gonna ask you that. When you upskill and you reskill the senior employees, obviously they're going to stay there for a while, and this means maybe the opportunities for the younger ones who come in will be affected to go up and progress in their careers. So this obviously is going to have an adverse effect and impact on the workforce in general, wouldn't it?
Yeah, sure. That is the worrying part. That's why earlier I mentioned about the fact that the senior citizen, even if they actually stay on in employment beyond 60, they shouldn't be actually moving up the career ladder. Their career should possibly, in terms of holding a higher position, thing like that, should just be limited to a certain age, and then they move sideways, so that the new younger set of people can take over, and the new younger set of people doesn't feel that they had been deprived of their opportunities to move their career. Otherwise, then possibly the younger generation may say, why should I actually continue in the company? I need to wait for another 5 years before I can move up and occupy this position. So might as well I leave now and do something else. And of course, another part is that when we talk about trying to assist the senior citizen, it is not just employment. There are so many things that can be done. You can work as a part-timer, you can work as, a consultant, you can work, in other capacities. But what is important is you give a chance to the senior citizen to occupy and use their skill. Occupy their time, use their skill, and also at the same time make some income generation activities.
Right. In that context, just to echo what you just mentioned, so diversifying the economic landscape here to accommodate our retirees here, to what extent should it fall under the employers? And how much intervention from the government must first be put in place before employers are able to support it fully?
I would say that when you talk about the labour market, it is not fair to put the burden squarely on the employers or even the employees or the government. It should be tripartite. It should be, I would say, a tripartite effort, so that every party play their role, so that in the end, when we actually, retain these people in employment, it is more like win-win situation for the employees, for the government, and also for the employers. Yeah. So of course, one of the things that we always had raised is the fact that possibly currently the government do have some, I would say, incentive for employers to actually retain their employees beyond 60. But there is a big but there. They say that it is limited to people who are earning 4,000 and below. So meaning that if you employ someone beyond 4,000 ringgit, then you're not given that double tax deduction. So to me, I would say that that is something that need to be reviewed. If you really want to encourage people to actually go and work beyond 60, then that income capping shouldn't be there. If the company is willing to pay the guy 20,000, 30,000, why should the company be deprived of the double tax deduction? Yeah. So this is something that I think the government need to relook at it, and I think there is really, for the government side, it is important for us to discuss with the stakeholders that, so that there is a real national policy on employment of senior citizens, and of course creating the right environment for people to thrive in that.
Right. Yeah. But okay, when we talk about raising the retirement age here and having to ensure that there is job security for our senior citizens in Malaysia, because in the past we had to go through COVID, and that was literally a sudden sort of like experience for us, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people lost their jobs. Sometimes a family, the only breadwinner in their family, literally went from something to nothing. I probably think that this is one of the ways to safeguard the nation, but to what extent do we safeguard the other generation?
Yep.
Yeah, our generasi pelapis here, right? And the stagnant of wages here.
Yep, yep. But sure, I mean, you're talking about, taking a leave from COVID-19, yeah? But I think that was a real lesson that actually that is worth really looking deeper into it, yeah? Yes, many people lost their job, yeah? And of course, in that extent, it create a lot of challenges for the employee, for the family members. But we are lucky because then the gig economy came up strongly, yeah. And from somewhere like 500,000 before COVID in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, we actually the people within that industry, the number of players jump up to something like 4.5 million.
Yep.
Yeah. Why they are able to do that? Because the gig economy is really very flexible. Yeah. The entry level, the entry cost is really low, and the cost is shared between the platform provider and the riders or the players within it. Yeah? So in that sense, it thrives. But of course, we are also aware that the government wanted to regulate this. But my main worry will be, in the event there is a more like over-regulation on this particular industry, then it is more like stifling the industry, and possibly the industry will not be able to actually manage to keep something like 4.5 million people within it. But again, I mean, and this is something that I think is very important. So question is that I mentioned just now about 1.2 million people above 60 are still in employment. So question is that how do we want to encourage even double the figure, for example? And of course, I think this is something that I think, like I said earlier, there is a need to really, for us to come up with a national policy. And of course, these people who are still contributing to the national economy beyond 60 need to be recognized, need to be rewarded. Yeah? And currently, of course, if you are working beyond 60, you pay the same income tax. Yeah? If it is 24%, 25%, 26%. No, from the day one you work until that level, you keep that, you keep on paying that kind of rate. But why can't we consider, say, for example, like giving some tax relief for those people who continue to work beyond 60, for example? That I would say that there will be more like, these people are encouraged to work also in that sense. Yeah, the company are encouraged to employ them because, say for example, they also get some tax relief kind of thing. So this is where, again, coming back to the environment itself, which is very, very important for us to create, so that people thrive within that situation. And also not forgetting about the new entrants and also people, the younger generation that are in the labor market, so that they don't feel that they had been actually unjustly being suppressed from going up.
Right. But again, Dato', with something like the gig economy, one thing that it sorely lacks is security, which is what everyone wants. And I would think that for someone who's very senior, that is essentially the number one priority. Right. And when you look at the gig economy now, I mean, even from COVID days, I don't generally see people above 40 even, working 2-3 jobs, being a Grab delivery rider or what have you on all these e-hailing services, right?
Right.
How are we going to accommodate something like the gig economy for someone who's aging?
Before that, I just want to also highlight, because it's almost like an oxymoron here, right? When we talk about retirement, you are retiring from your daily needs to earn a decent living. Now that you've earned that decent living, why are you forced to continue to work? Is there a deeper underlying issue here within Malaysia? I suppose, retirement safety net or aging safety net that needs to be addressed apart from just the working aspect or arguments here?
Yeah, I mean, addressing, Amalina's point here first, you're talking about, people being asked to work longer to reap the benefits of their long service up to retirement, meaning that you're asked to work longer before you can get your pension, which, of course, in the public service is very, very, is there, 60% of your last basic income kind of thing. And that is very critical. So I totally agree with you. Why should these people be asked to work longer to get their retirement benefits? So this is where, again, I would say, even if eventually the government increase the retirement age, the flexibility to retire should still be given to the employees concerned, the public servants, so that they can actually enjoy their retirement if they wish to retire. Yeah, and the same thing like people in the private sector. You shouldn't be forced to work beyond certain numbers that you have. If you want to retire early, by all means. Yeah, this is where I say the concept of mutual voluntary agreement can be very, very critical when we talk about employment of senior citizens. Yeah? So nobody should be feel that they are forced to work. And of course, I mean, being forced to work is something which is not acceptable in the labor market kind of thing, because it's again, I think that is against the human right kind of thing. So sorry, just now.
Something like a gig economy.
Yeah.
A lot of services and security. That's the main thing that's lacking from it, right?
Yeah.
So how can we accommodate that better?
If you're talking about the people who are of the senior citizen working as in the gig work, I think I would like to of course differ a bit from your statement. Of course, you notice that there are many senior citizens that actually still continue serving in the gig economy, and I read and I noticed that there are even female senior citizens that actually continue to do that. Yeah, and of course, basically in terms of social security, Alhamdulillah, now the government actually say that yes, these people be covered by SOCSO, at least SOCSO employment injury. Of course, my main take is basically it shouldn't stop there. It should go on invalidity scheme rather than just purely employment injury. And of course, yes, I mean the payment is made by the gig worker himself. Yeah, but company actually try to actually facilitate this by sending the money over to SOCSO. Similarly, for EPF, of course they have this concept about Aisaraan is voluntary. I would say that possibly in future the government may want to think about making it mandatory for the gig worker to contribute for their rainy days. Yeah? And of course, I would say that what the government is doing currently is the right thing, because they give also subsidy on the contribution made by the gig workers.
Let's still look into how we can ensure that there's longevity in sustaining the workforce here. Yeah. And when we talk about that, we actually talk about the payrolls, right? And whether or not employers do have that bandwidth to accommodate the volume of that payroll. The logic behind having to increase the retirement age, meaning your workforce retention is there. However, how can we ensure that it's sustainable for the business itself as well? And to also not just be, stagnant, because you have to drive change. You have to include new sort of, again, generasi pelapis, the young.
This is where I think we need a lot of flexibility. Yeah, we cannot actually apply the same rule for every category of employment. Yeah, and also of course there are such things as our smaller employers that I think we need to take care of. This is where we are actually currently doing the right thing. In that sense, say for example, just talk about employment beyond 60 now. The EPF laws say that if you employ someone beyond 60, then you don't contribute 12% or 13% EPF as employer. You contribute 4% only. And for the employee, you don't have to contribute EPF if you don't want to. But if you want to contribute, by all means, yeah. So that is that kind of flexibility that we actually require, yeah. But of course, the other part is basically when you talk about the other parts of employment is, do you apply the same rule, apply the same laws if they are beyond certain age, yeah. Currently, it is like that. You use the same laws, you use the same rules, yeah. But I would say that in order for us to really look at the burden posed on the employers, then we should be thinking about after a certain age, then this should go more, I would say, more flexible rather than using the main law. And for the smaller employers, yeah, you employ less than 5 micro employers, yeah, and you're asked to do something like, you must sustain your employee beyond 60.
Right.
How can they do that? It's going to be very, very challenging for them to do so. Yeah. So again, I think this is where I think we need to be pragmatic in managing the situation. I know that there are some countries which says that if you are smaller employers, then the main law doesn't apply. You go on the basic thing only. That I think is a kind of thing that we want to encourage entrepreneurship. And for the senior citizen, like I say, what is important is to fill up your time, also to fill up your ability to generate income. Yeah. Right. So possibly they instead of just working for someone, they should become entrepreneur.
Right, I was just about to say, so if you are looking to work beyond your retirement age, beyond 60, then maybe the best option for you is to be your own boss.
Yeah.
Also,
quite simply.
when we were talking before the recording, Dato', we talked about how we should probably be more proactive in pushing senior citizens who are about to retire or who have retired to go into ways that they can generate passive income rather than just having to, work long hours, 8-9 hours, still keep the office job, but, be smart about it.
Yeah, that's I think, very, very critical. And this is where I would say, just now we did discuss about, before the recording about financial literacy.
Correct, yes.
It's very, very critical for even not only the older generation, for the younger generation, so that they actually don't mess up with their saving nest within the EPF. Yeah, but of course, I'm glad now the EPF has the 3 accounts. You need touch your third account. The rest you cannot touch unless something really happened to you, thing like that. Which I think is a very smart move in that sense. And I would say that apart from just having the 3 accounts, I think financial literacy is very, very important. And EPF, I know they are doing it, but to people who are nearing retirement, but not necessarily so. And I would say I would encourage employers to really also impart financial literacy to their employees. I know the AKPK is doing it, and I would say that AKPK services can also be enlisted to actually talk about financial literacy for the would-be retirees, for even people who are serving in the company, so that they don't fall into financial issues or financial mismanagement.
Right. We also actually have a clip from our reporters who actually took to the streets to ask not just senior citizens but the general public in terms of what they think about raising the retirement age and whether or not it should be a blanket approach.
Saya setuju sebab saya rasa kalau saya sendiri, saya dah let's say lagi 30 tahun, kalau saya dah bersara pun, saya rasa saya akan jadi susah sebab saya ni orang yang bekerja.
Living has risen. Like for my family specifically also, we've been affected. Had my parents retired at 60, coping would be tough. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. So, and I'm sure a lot of families within the B40 community especially, 60 is okay. Yeah, 65 is also okay not too bad. Looking at my parents, they are around that age. They are still able to work.
Pendapat saya, kalau dia masih waras, kesihatan masih okey, tidak menyusahkan syarikat, tak ada masalah.
As long as the person is healthy and able to continue working, why not?
Kepada individu tersebut, ada yang 60 masih sihat, masih cergas berbanding umur 25, in fact. Tapi ada yang 60 tu kadang-kadang dia dah kita kata dah tak berdaya lah untuk bekerja kan.
When you talk about retirement, you talk about having to retire happily. You talk about, I won't say end of days, I don't want to be morbid, right? But towards the end of your lifetime, you want to be able to not feel the burden or the weight of the world. This sort of approach or idea that we're dwelling upon, right? As a person who is from that age group, Dato',
Yep.
how do you think that's fair to you?
Yep. I would say that, no, that's why you see just now, I used to be the executive director. So I moved sideways to become the advisor. A different role, which I love it now, yeah. I don't have to actually look at the managing the people anymore. I don't have to look into the nitty-gritty of finances in the organization, and I just move on from there. And of course, that is something that is a big relief on your shoulders, basically, and you enjoy life in a better way, yeah. In that sense that okay, you actually now don't have to actually come every day to the office, yeah. You have the flexibility of working from home kind of thing, and you come to the office and meet people when when required. So there is something that actually is a big difference from what you used to do, and moving on to actually into more like your semi-retirement kind of thing. Yeah? So that is a good transition basically, yeah? Before you eventually call it a day. Yeah?
So Dato', I think that's what we all want, regardless of age group.
Exactly.
I would love to have that.
Exactly. And when we grow up, when we were like youngsters, we thought that, okay, by 20, we'll reach a certain milestone. 30s, a certain milestone. 40s, a certain milestone. But of course, what I personally am looking forward to, and I believe, again, I'm sure everyone here or everyone watching this will be looking forward to, is that when we finally retire, we do not want that weight on our shoulders.
That's right.
Right? We want to be able to enjoy life.
Yep.
Because maybe 40 years ago, we've been working very hard.
Amanila, something I'd like to add. Reality hits, and it hits you hard, like a ton of bricks coming down on you.
But what is important really is, for the people beyond 60, I think you should plan to do something that you really love to do. Yeah. Don't force yourself to work if you don't want to. Yeah. Do something like if even for example just small gardening. Take care of your pet chicken, pet kambing or thing like that. That will do. Yeah.
Right.
Basically.
And I suppose for those who have no option but to work well over their 60s, then that's another problem that we should actually address. Why is that the condition?
Yeah, sure. So this is something like of course, if you look around, they say that they are forced to work because of their short in fund. They need to actually earn income to sustain themselves and the family. But I would say, like you mentioned just now, people working from young up to 60, about 40 years plus kind of thing, they should actually have enough saving at that time to retire comfortably. We had made some calculation, even with, say, for example, 13%, 13% from employers, 11% from employees. You just earn 1,007. Say, for example, you just earn 1,007, the current minimum salary. If you don't touch your savings within EPF until retire, you would have close to $500,000 ringgit in your EPF saving. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And of course that will carry you through because when you reach 60, for male you're expected to actually live up to another 18.5 years. Yeah. And for female you're expected to live slightly longer, 20 plus years.
Oh gosh.
So that that amount, that minimal amount I'm talking about, 1,007, $500,000 should be able to carry you through to that period.
Even when you're at that age, you won't be looking at the dollars and cents anymore, right? If you already have that taken care of. Well, unfortunately, Dato', as well as Hazwin, this is the end of the segment. I just like to thank Dato' Shamsuddin Bardan again from Malaysian Employers Federation, the advisor, for being on the show and sharing your insights. Do come on the show if we do invite you, and hopefully it will be about retirement.
Welcome anytime. Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe we'll talk about something a bit more fun, like vacation overseas when you have enough savings.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm looking
Or
forward
at
to.
least
So
incentives.
retirement is a heavy subject.
Yeah, it is. But it should not be. It should not
When I
be.
think of retirement, I think
Yeah,
I'm on a yacht and
Yeah.
swimming like
Yep,
in the
yep,
ocean or
yep,
something.
Yeah, having
Yeah.
having fresh coconut,
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
under
On the
the
beach,
sun. Yeah,
yeah.
but that's true. That's true. Right. So our audience, don't go anywhere. We'll be back for our second segment. Welcome back. Now, as PKR convenes its 2024-2025 National Congress in Johor Bahru, the party finds itself at a critical juncture, not just in leadership transition, but in reaffirming its identity, cohesion, and relevance in Malaysia's evolving political landscape.
Now, with the party's divisional polls done and dusted about 2 weeks ago, that resulted in some major upsets, PKR's National Congress now sees the Central Leadership Council elections take place.
Indeed. Now, Hazwin, if the outcome of this division polls are anything to judge by, we could potentially see some more shakeups in PKR's top brass.
Yes, that's right. And the party's election committee chairman, Datuk Sri Dr. Zaleha Mustafa, says that the results of the election are expected to be announced as early as 9 p.m. after it concludes at 5 p.m. today. These internal polls are the first since the party president, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, became the Prime Minister in November 2022. And those elected will then serve a 3-year term until 2028.
But, Hazwin, leading up to this National Congress has not been without all its drama. Following the outcome of the divisional polls, where incumbents and bigwigs lost to underdogs, some went on to the challenge to results like PKR Vice President Nik Nazmi Nik Ahmad, who lost his Setiawangsa Division Chief post to Dato' Aflin Shauki. Akmal Nasrullah Muhammad Nasir, the Deputy Minister of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, also objected to the results following his defeat in the contest for the Johor Bahru Division Chief post. Now, Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Adam Adli Abdul Halim also failed in his bid to win the Division Deputy Chief post for Hang Tuah Jaya in Malacca, securing only 791 votes compared to his challenger Zamzizol Nordin, who garnered 1,905 votes.
And Amalina, the drama didn't stop there. We then saw Economy Minister and PKR Deputy President Datuk Sri Rafizi Ramli taking an absence of leave. Now, there was initially widespread rumours and speculation that his hiatus was because he had resigned from cabinet, and only days later did he address the issue that he had stepped aside to address issues arising from the party election.
Right. Now, Ravizi was actually talking about the objections stemming from the division poll results. He said the complaints and related matters needed to be handled harmoniously, which required significant time and attention. Now, he said that over 190 objections had been submitted regarding the polls. Now, PR Secretary General Dr. Fuzia Saleh, however, said that following an independent audit, the party's Central Leadership Council was satisfied with the results.
Moving on, Nurul Izzah Anwar then confirmed her bid for the number 2 spot against, well, you know who, now seemingly distant Rafizi Ramli, who will be looking to defend his number 2 seat in the party. So a lot is at stake in today's central leadership election, wouldn't you say, Amalina?
Yeah, I would agree. Now, joining us for this particular discussion and to share a little bit more insights for us, we've got political analyst Professor Dr. Siva Murugan Pandian on the call with us. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being on the show. Now, Doctor, I do want to ask you this. With the Congress now taking place, the first question would be, Fahmi Fazil, of course, has expressed confidence that there will be no major split post-election. Now, is this optimism realistic?
In any party elections, definitely there'll be a split. Team A, Team B, Team C, or Team D. But what is more pertinent and what is more important is to what extent they're able to reunite immediately after the party election to make sure that there's no longer any personality who's above party, but party is more important than any personalities. In this sense, we're looking at 2 strong personalities who have built up their own team. We are looking at Rafizi Ramli and Nurul Izzah herself. The split is confirmed, but to what extent it will damage the party's image, rebranding, the process of the market again as one of the mainstream political party depends on the outcome of the election and whether we will see many more who may decide either to stay based on their strong affiliation with the party, or they may want to leave the party based on their strong connection with certain personalities. Rafizi has said that he would want to relinquish or resign his position with the cabinet if he loses. And that means that he would not be a part of the government anymore. Whether that decision, if in the case that he loses tomorrow, then whether the others in the cabinet would follow his step as well.
Right.
For example, within his camp, Nick Nazmi and Chan Lee Kang, whether they would want to follow his suit or they would want to remain in the cabinet, remain to be seen.
Now, Dr. Nurul Izzah recently warned that the internal disputes could destroy the party within 5 to 10 years. What unresolved tensions or factionalism might she be alluding to here?
I think they have already seen factions within the party. And how do you close the ranks? Of course, you have to find a unifying factor within the party. So it could be Anwar himself or Izzah if she wins. How does she, the most important role that she have to play if she wins is to unite back those who supported her and also those who were against her. And it could be a long process unless, as I said earlier, party is more important than any personalities. And to close the ranks, it also needs a holistic approach. I think it's also a responsibility of everyone who believe in the ideology of the party rather than looking at position, power, what more after becoming the ruling government today. No, as an incumbent, definitely Rafizi felt that he should not be challenged. He should have won uncontested based on the president's assurance weeks before that. But when there's a contest, he felt that there was a betrayal. He felt that there was backstabbing him. And that's the word he used, actually. Maybe he didn't see it's coming at the last minute. That's why his campaign was quite aggressive, very straightforward, very open to the crisis within the party, whereas Nurul Izzah was focusing quietly to engage herself with the delegates directly, and she was focusing very much on the way forward of the party. She showed some vision. She didn't condemn or criticize the party, but she felt that the gap between the generations should be reduced. She felt that the disparity within the component of the members of PKR should be reduced as well. Mainly because PKR is no longer as an opposition party, but they are the ruling party. So they have to rebrand, they have to change the mindset to fulfill the needs, demands of the masses generally. So we are looking at Rafizi Ramli, who's moving aggressively, whereas Nurul Izzah quietly moving to attract more support within the party.
Now, what steps is PKR taking to ensure its policies and messages are effectively communicated and understood at the grassroots levels beyond party congresses and formal speeches?
No, I think they have to revisit whatever promises that have been given in the manifesto back in 2022. If they can revisit and relook what kind of approach can be taken and look at the instant, short-term, long-term policies that can be created to ensure that the implementation towards the policy will show solid end results. Of course, we are looking at to what extent you're able to reduce the bread and butter issue. First thing. Second, the job opportunities for the younger generation. Third, we're looking at education as well. Fourth, if Izzah wins, she has been always promoting about multidimensional approach on poverty and also on women issues. All these should be translated into implementation and find some end results rather than being seen as ongoing process.
The race between Nurul Izzah and Rafizi Ramli.
Two strong
how do you see
personalities
that going?
I mean, you've got two strong personalities there, and leading up to the Congress, we've seen their campaign trails to be very different, right? Two extremes here clashing. So as Dr. Sivamurugan did say, Nurul Izzah is taking a more softer, subtle approach. She wants to be more appealing to the younger generation because there is this push within the party itself to kind of close the generational barriers there.
So essentially, we could be seeing a changing of the guard here. That is what it is, right?
It is what it is. And if you do want to know more about the Congress, do follow us on NSC Online. You'll not only get Beyond the Headlines update, other news reports will also be delivered to you. Now that's all for today. My name is Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Hazrin Hassan.
And we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.